In this video, we'll cover how you can test SAP CPI. We'll both cover how you can test with mocking and how you can test in a secured way with secured content. So first off, what we want to talk about is why testing is important, why you must use the secure data to testing, how the Figaf testing tool works. We'll do a demo, just show you what the tool can do, and then show you how you can get started. So why is it that we're testing? What's important about our testing? And as you can see here, there is a number of different options if it creates some kind of failure in the business. And it's not just that this specific message would fail, but it may have cascading effects that you'll not deliver orders within a deadline and process them and stuff like that. And some of these things can spread like ripples in the water, and that means it's better to be able to test as much as possible. When we're talking about test data, the best place you can actually get test data is from your productive system. In my opinion, it does create or have all the complexity that you need. A lot of times in the PI test case, whenever I've asked someone to test it, they would create this simple invoice with just one line item, and we know in reality invoices will always have 400 line items with 3 different types, and that's a different complexity to test things with and give something else you need to be able to test. That's why it's best to be able to get data from your production system and replay them on your local system. Unfortunately, the data that you're getting from your productive system is often confidential. In a lot of cases, customers are using success factors, and then it's obviously HR, it's salary information, it is social security numbers, it can also be sales data or some customer specific information that's GDPR relevant or SOX challenges. And you often have some remote workers and you want to make sure that they do not interfere with the product in any way. And that is why you need somehow to protect this. And this is what the solution is about. First off, how do the Figaf solution work with regards to testing CPI? So in this we have 2 flows. One, we have a recording flow about how we're recording messages, and the basic principle of this is you select an iflow you want to monitor. Then you switch in the Figaf tool. The Figaf tool will then switch this monitor into trace mode. You can then send messages through this interface, and once you have processed it, the Figaf tool can then download all the different payloads from this, and then we have a test case. To test it, you can select one or more test cases, send them through the system, I'll select them. The Figaf tool will switch the iflow into trace mode. It will then send the incoming messages that it got from the recording. Once the processing is done, you can then download all the original payloads, and it'll then compare the input with the output and see if everything is as expected. Then you're probably saying, well, in our case we have success factors and we want to test the interface to create employee, and it is really difficult to create an employee multiple times or select data within a certain range, and with that be able to test that my scripting and everything like that else works. That is where mocking come in, and if you want to do this manual, it's really time consuming. Figure out what to set up when you're mocking these data. So with mocking data, there's a number of different ways you can do this. And yeah, the reason obviously, if you have create employee or you have create customer with a specific ID that is only available in production but not in test, it becomes really difficult to test these things. You can test it with mock data, and that is where Figaf tool will then serve as an endpoint and say, okay, all the data that is going through here, we will see and we'll be able to process. Figaf will then create a copy of the iflow and set all the data to point to the Figaf tool, and it will then serve as an endpoint because we know what data it was supposed to get after it had called this specific service. So what you'll see is that we have the original flow here, we have a request reply here, and we can see it calls OData service. And over here we can see we have the same iflow, it's just a copy, but here it has been replaced and calling a Figaf service internally, and we're using the cloud connector and have internal access for it. So this mocking is really useful when testing. You're able to test scripts, flows, all these different kind of things that's really difficult to test normally. The next thing is obviously this thing about securing. How do we take our secured payload and ensure that customers or our partners or developers, contractors cannot really see it? They can run tests, see if there's anything wrong, but will not be able to fix or see what the customer data is. So it consists of a couple of different things. So first off, you need to be able to block developers from having access to edit this or to view the data in the normal monitor. With CPI, I guess you can either simply get an extra instance that you'd use for this, or if you use the Figaf monitor for CPI, you can also use that to just show them the data that's relevant. Then you will only give them masked data. So if you have an XML document, you'll see the same structure, but the data will be masked, so you cannot really see who was the person behind this. And then we do not send it to external systems because we're all using mocked services there. With this secure testing, you're able to test scripts, routings, mappings, and flows and see if everything works as you'd expect them to. So here we can see an example of some payloads. We can see here is the encrypted example. We can see that the number here is just 999, and in the original number we have some different data, or the original data obviously. So that means you can only see that there is a number here. You can see there's a string, and that will give you some insight about what's going on in this document. So in this demo we have created two agents. The CD, it has confidential data, so this could be our productive instance, and without any prefix, this is a secure tester system where we've set up all the requirements for doing testing. So let's first find the CD, confidential data. We select an iflow, we want to record one message. We can select how many messages we want to have. We can create a test suite for this, and then we can just get started, and can then activate this, and then now the iflow is set into trace mode, and I can then send a message into the system. So now I've processed a message. We can we can pull the messages, and this will then log onto the CPI system and check all the different messages and steps that we have. And in a little while we can see that it found a message and a lot of payloads on this specific message. So now it's completed. We can see we got 29 messages in this, and what we can then do, if we can try to take a look at these messages and view the payloads here. But what we'll see, it's all encoded in some format. We can view it because I got a role to be able to view sensitive data, but most users would not need that. So now we've created it or downloaded test data from it. We can then create it, and we can see which instances it can run on. We can run it now on our normal development system. And what this will do is it will send this message in with the same data, and once it has been processed, we will then be able to do our comparison here. So pull messages, so we'll see if this has been processed or not, and we can see it is in progress and of downloading this message. And this will obviously take a little while, and once it has downloaded it, we can view the result and see what are the differences between the input and the outgoing documents, and we can view the differences here in the encoded or in the original version. So check the encoded version. So we can see here there was a lot of different elements in it that we did not have in the original one. So we will just need to go through these and set up ignoring, and that means next time we run it, we will not see these items as a part of the testing of these elements. So that really speeds up the process, enables you to actually see what's different, what's going on in these payloads. And if we just check, we can view the messages in here on the support tool, on in the monitoring tool. Here we have all the messages that's been processed. We can see the mocked data was sent here, and we can see we do not have access to view any attachments or anything of it. For the other one, we can then see a little more what's going on in it, and we can see if it's trace, and we can see this is a secured message that we have sent for testing on the mock data services. And if we just want to look at that mock data, we can go to the C package. Here we have the mocked service, and what we will then be able to see in this is that it has the name of the iflow and then test with mock data, and we can see here all the outgoing messages has been replaced with this information. And we also have that one down here that's being looped over, so we can see the data here, and it's using the on-premise. So if you have the Cloud Connect up and running, it will also take that one, and you don't need to do anything with creating this. So it means we can test all of these elements in it and just figure out what are the differences that we need to handle. If you want to try it out, you can try it out at figaf.com/IoT, or if you want to try the cloud version that works the same way, you can go to figaf.com/IoT cloud. And the tool is much more than just a test tool. There's transport, governance, and a lot of other things. Hope you enjoyed this. Thank you.